All right, can you tell me about this picture?
This picture is a picture of my mother, and she wore the springtime dress. She had a jacket on and she had suspender pants over it, but she was out in the garden, and I said that we had a large garden, so you can see the enormity of it all. She was using a seeder where she'd put the seed into the pocket or space there, and then she'd push it down the aisle, down the line, and seed that way, especially the small grains. Like then she'd put corn in there, put watermelon in, and we had muskmelon, cantaloupe, cucumbers, and that all went through the seeder. So it made it a little lighter, a little less work than trying to go out with the hoe and make a row. We had a big garden.
All right.
That was Mom.
All right, can you tell me about this one?
This is a picture of Willard, and he had, I don't know why he has two of them, if they have litters like cats do or what. I'm not sure about that, but he had more than two even, and he deskunked them, or he deodorized them, and he had my sister helping him. I don't know how he did that. I just wondered if he did some blackmailing or something, because she did help him, though she was really scared. But there were the two brothers that did that. So
Where did he find these skunks?
I have no clue. We had barns and sheds, and they would out in the fields or wherever. I don't know where and how they caught them without getting sprayed themselves. Maybe because they were too young. I don't know about little skunks, but I know that he loved them like little kittens, and they had them for pets for a while. But there was a trace of skunk odor when they'd come in the house. Okay. That's my sister. She's had to help him, and she didn't want to, but she said she got roped into it somehow, and they're holding them after the big operation, and they were quite safe, I guess. So I wouldn't have gone near them, but...
And which sister is that?
Willie. She was younger than I am.
Right.
Okay. Now this is Mom and Dad and my youngest brother, Mikey. I was already married and gone. He was born the same year. He was born in the spring, and I got married in the fall. So I didn't really get to know my brother Michael until I was a den mother for my own son, and he was 2 years older than my son, but he was in my den, and I was his den mother, so I got to know my brother that way. And but I left when he was still quite young. He was only 8 or 9 months old.
Right.
And that's a big cattle rack where they had the cattle rack on the truck, which they'd haul cattle back and forth to the market. So, and as you can see, Mom and Dad were always close. They were a real close-up team. They worked together and backed each other up. And if there was a disagreement about disciplining, they wouldn't do it in front of us. They'd always take care of it later. They would take care of the discipline now and agree later, or disagree later, whatever. But they were close. Okay?
Okay.
The merry-go-round. The merry-go-round, that seems to be Wallace and my brother Michael. But Wallace isn't quite sitting in that merry-go-round as usually, as they usually did. He's a little bit too big, I think, already for that. But it's a buggy wheel with an axle, and my dad dug the buggy wheel into the ground with the wheel up, and they could sit on it, and oh, they had so much fun. They'd go speeding that merry-go-round at top speed all the time, and the hair flying. You know, the girls always had their hair fly. They were long-haired, and they had their hair flying and the biggest smile on their faces, and away they'd go. So, and that's beside what used to be an old summer kitchen. It was used as a storage shed and other things. So, okay.
Okay.
Oh. I'm not sure. I think it's Nick and his horse. He had a little, it was a smaller horse, and he did a lot of trick riding with it, and just, we all rode it just for the pleasure. I never did ride bareback, but my sisters did. I liked the saddle when I rode, and he'd ride anyway, and that was our barn, big barn. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Willie making her first Holy Communion, and of course, where one was, there was always another child or another sister or some. We were always together, and the beautiful little white dress and the little veil and the purse and the white stockings and the white shoes was a symbol of purity, and that was really, that picture was treasured. There were a lot of things that, well, we had so many girls. There were 8 of us girls, so Mom did a lot of First Communion dressing, I'll tell you. Nice, and the boys got their suits for First Communion. Okay.
Right.
Now, family picture again, and it looks like one of, or two of, well, some of us married ladies, women, or some of the married sisters had children in there. The little one, the girls were siblings, and the little boys were our children. My sister Vi and my oldest son on the right side of the picture. Okay.
Okay.
Sisters loving each other. This is Bernadette and Genevieve. Always barefoot, wearing. Mom always had them dressed in pants because towards the evening the mosquitoes were so bad in the country, so she always had longer clothes on, longer legs, covered the legs up. But they're close. They played together, fought together, and loved each other. Okay.
Right.
Nick and his dog, I forget the name of the dog. I think it was Shep. And he loved that dog, and the dog was really a good cattle dog. And Nick was always on the horse, and the dog was with him. And they did any rounding up of the cattle and so on. The dog was right there. So.
Right.
Dad and Willard and Jean, I think they were sitting on the combine. No, not the combine. I think the cultivator. And that's old. Okay. My dad without a hat. Now you see where the hat is? It's on Willard. Okay. Genevieve, my youngest sister, and her older sister, Bernadette, holding the doll. And Jan had long hair, which I can still see flying around on that merry-go-round. She had light blonde. They were all blonde, all the girls. It looks like Bernadette's a little darker, but it's all of my sisters were blonde except myself. Little German blondes. I'm not sure who that is, but it's the house. And I'm not really sure. It looks, I can't tell you who that one is, but it's our house. On a tricycle. Toys, we did have some toys, but one tricycle for 4 boys, one bike for all of us. But they did make sure that we had some form of entertainment. I suppose mostly to keep us out of trouble. First communion again, that's Willie without a partner. Okay. Winter wonderland, a winter blizzard blew through, and if you see by the tracks, I was able to walk straight up on that snowbank, and it was so hard already, it was frozen. And I'm sitting on top of the shed with the dog. That's how deep the snow was after the blizzard. It blew it into such large drifts. But I'll tell you, there was a lot of water in the spring then when that snow melted. We had water. Okay. This is a picture of the caboose that my dad fashioned on, and my brothers fashioned on sled runners. And it took a team of horses to pull it. It was quite heavy. And they covered it with binder canvas and everybody got into the caboose. There was a driver, and I think he had the reins through the front, a little window in the front, and he guided the horses that way, and everybody sat inside of the caboose and closed the door so they were out of the wind and out of the snow blizzarding, and went to school that way. One day they tipped over, scared the willies out of everybody. A lot of confusion to get them back in and back on the, tip the caboose upright again, or straighten the caboose up and get the kids back in if they weren't too frightened to get back in. It took some doing to get it going again. Okay, this is the caboose, front and back. It shows the horses, the team of horses that needed to be pulled with because it was quite heavy. And when the kids all got in it, there were like about 4 or 5 kids that were in the caboose. It was pretty heavy, so it took a team of horses to pull it. They had more fun with the caboose in the summertime because they used it as a playhouse, and they cleaned out the brooder house and used the brooder house as one house, and then they went visiting to the other family in the caboose. So there was always, somebody was always thinking of something to do and to play with.
All right.
Some more of Nick's horses. We don't have to do them all.
We'll put them all on here.
This is the boys, and they loved the horses, and they did tricks on it, bareback riding, saddle riding. They had the horses did tricks, and the horses, they were close to their horses, and they sure enjoyed them and did a lot of things with them. I think some of them are, one or two might be Willard, Nick, maybe Wallace. I'm not sure who's on there anymore. Okay. This is Willard and myself, and that's Wallace down in the bottom there, and I think Jeannie is on the horse. The three of us on the bottom were ready to go to school, and Mom would put us all up on that horse, bareback. We'd go to school on that horse. And I remember the dress that I was wearing, it was made out of with brown satin material, was made out of a dress that Mom didn't use anymore. And the lace was from the collar. She fashioned it. I was so proud of that dress. It was brown satin lace. I felt like a little doll. Okay.
Okay.
Those are my brothers getting ready to go hunting. They love to hunt. They do a lot with hunting, trapping. They would go out in the wintertime and hunt rabbits, and rabbits turned white in the snow, and they'd go out at night. So they were was a little tricky to go spot the rabbits. They used the headlights of a vehicle to shine at them and find them. They sold the pelts and made a little money and bought some more ammunition. Okay. And we did have pets, and this is one of them, little. You can see that the boys enjoyed. They were quite small and didn't quite know what to do with the pet goat. But we had other animals too. That's about all. Okay. And that one, you've got a picture of that, haven't you?
Will you tell us about it, though?
Oh, okay. This is a picture of our farmstead in the background, and my dad is sitting kind of on a hill, and between the farmstead and where Dad was sitting, there was on the bottom of that hill, there was a little dam. Now, when you look at the picture, you see the Gallo wine jug, but and it'd make you think that Dad was carrying his wine around the yard, but he wasn't. That was the color of our water, and he always carried water with him. So.
All right.
Okay.
We are here at St. Joseph's Cemetery in Dickinson, North Dakota. And can you show us what we're looking at?
Well, I'm at my parents' and grandparents' grave site, and my grandfather and my grandmother were the first up in that area. We had another tree beside the monument, the monument, and but that died or something happened to it, and they had to take it away. And also my grandmother's cover deteriorated in the interim. But over here is something that is of interest, and it's these iron crosses that there are quite a few of them out in this cemetery, and they were made by ironsmiths of that time. There aren't any dates on them, and one of them is Anna Marie Wock, and the other is Anton Wock. No dates of birth and no dates, but by the angels, it's an indication of of children. Children were buried there. And I don't know any more information. They would have been my aunt and my uncle, I'm sure. And then there's another marker here, and another baby was buried there. And this is my son's headstone. He was not quite 40 years old. He died of cancer. My sister next to him is, she died of cancer too. She was only 30 years old. And of course my mom and my dad are buried beside each other there. This is the Wock family, my family. And there was one space here, and being my son was single, we asked the family if they minded if we put him in the same plot with mom and dad, and no one disagreed, so we put Paul here because he was single. And this is our family plot. My husband's family is across the way in a similar situation, so thank you.